Raju Pal was killed outside his residence in broad daylight. The police is tracking the criminal nexus behind this murder and is hunting for gangster turned politician Atiq Ahmed's son, Asad Ahmed, who was caught on CCTV cameras at the scene of the crime. Atiq Ahmed, who is currently in an Ahmedabad jail, is the main accused in the killing of Raju Pal, and police suspect he masterminded Umesh Pal's murder. Now, Yogi Adityanath's signature bulldozer justice has returned. Atiq Ahmed's ancestral home as well as property belonging to his aides were demolished in Prayagraj. Addressing the Uttar Pradesh Assembly today, Yogi Adityanath hit out at the Samajwadi Party, saying while his government gave one Make in India product to each district of UP, the Samajwadi Party gave one mafia to each district. Yogi Adityanath also slammed the party for its political support to Atiq Ahmed, who served as a 5-time Samajwadi Party MLA and member of the Lok Sabha. Yogi Adityanath vowed that mafia Raj ko mitti mein mila denge. The opposition has hit back at the Yogi government, accusing it of indulging in political optics and targeting innocent people instead of maintaining law and order in the state. Raids continue across Uttar Pradesh to track down the suspects involved in Umesh Pal's murder. On Monday, one of the key accused, 25-year-old Arbaz, was gunned down by the police in an encounter in Prayagraj. Police also arrested a 27-year-old Ghazipur native, Sadakat Khan, for his alleged involvement in the murder conspiracy. This sparked another political war, with the BJP releasing a photograph of Samajwadi Party Supremo Akhilesh Yadav with Sadakat Khan, claiming the party had a hand in Umesh Pal's murder. On the other hand, the Samajwadi Party released a photo of the same Sadakat Khan with former BJP MLA Uday Bhan Karwaria, accusing the Saffron Party of sheltering gangsters. This murder has delivered a serious blow to Yogi Adityanath's tough-on-crime brand. But no one can deny the boost that bulldozer justice has delivered to the same brand. But can it stand a legal test in the prosecution of crimes? Is it a valid crackdown for justice, or is this government overreach?
जिस अतीक अहमद के खिलाफ पीड़ित परिवारों ने मुकदमा दर्ज कराया उसके परिवार के खिलाफ, वह समाजवादी पार्टी के द्वारा पोषित माफिया है और उसकी कमर को तोड़ने का काम हमारी सरकार ने किया है।
देखिए, लॉ एंड ऑर्डर डायलॉग से नहीं ठीक होगा। लॉ एंड ऑर्डर किसी डायलॉग से नहीं ठीक हो सकता है कि मिट्टी में मिला देंगे। आपने मिट्टी में मिला देने के लिए कहा, अमेठी में 2 की हत्या हो गई।
हर समस्या के 2 समाधान होते हैं, भाग लो या भाग लो। उसका सामना करो, उस प्रकार की कार्य योजना बनाओ और उसके समाधान के स्तर पर पहुंचाओ, जैसे कि 6 वर्ष के अंदर किया गया।
पूरी तरह से कानून व्यवस्था ध्वस्त है, पूरी तरह से मुलजिम पकड़ नहीं पा रहे, सताए जाएंगे लोग, निर्दोष लोग सताए जाएंगे, असली मुलजिम पकड़ नहीं पा रहे।
So first, let me give you a sense of what Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has said on his brand of bulldozer justice. Mr. Adityanath says bulldozers are a sign of peace and growth by enforcing law. He says bulldozers will continue to crush criminals and the mafia. Strictness against chaotic elements trying to ruin the nation is the classic line of Yogi Adityanath, and that this is an action against history cheaters to send a message to criminals. No innocent will be bothered and no guilty will be spared has been the big message coming from the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister. Now let me give you an overview of what different courts and legal experts have ruled on this bulldozer justice of Yogi Adityanath, or similar actions that have been taken by other states. If we look at the Patna High Court, in December 2022, the Patna High Court said that bulldozer justice is a tamasha that subverts the rule of law. In November 2022, another court, this time Guwahati High Court, ruled that bulldozing of a house is not provided under criminal law and that this action is illegal even if a serious matter is under investigation. Then, in June 2022, former Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court, Govind Mathur, said that it was impermissible to demolish homes when residents are in custody. He said it was not a technical issue but a question of rule of law. So is this really something which may be brand of Yogi Adityanath, but is this correct as per the law of the land? Joining me on the show, Shehzad Poonawalla, BJP spokesperson. We have Dharamveer Chaudhary, BSP spokesperson. Amit Jamai, Samajwadi Party spokesperson. Dr. Vikram Singh, former UP DGP. Desh Ratna Nigam, lawyer and political analyst. Amit Jamai, the question is action against criminals. Shouldn't that be taken? And shouldn't all political parties be backing this move of the Chief Minister of UP?
मारिया, सदन में माननीय अखिलेश यादव जी ने आदरणीय योगी आदित्यनाथ जी से कहा कि मुख्यमंत्री जी आप एक्शन क्यों नहीं लेते? जब कानपुर देहात में एक बेटी और मां को जिंदा जला दिया गया, बुलडोजर चला दिया गया, आप एक्शन क्यों नहीं लेते? ब्रह्म महासभा के अध्यक्ष को मंत्री, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के मंत्री के सामने चप्पलों से मारा गया और उनके ऊपर SC/ST का मुकदमा भी दर्ज कर दिया गया। जब माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी सदन में बोल रहे हैं, जौनपुर में एक वीडियो जर्नलिस्ट के ऊपर ताबड़तोड़ गोलियां चली, अमेठी में एक प्रधान के बेटे और बाप को उसके ऊपर गोलियां चली, मार दिया गया उसको, तो ये दिखाता है कि आदरणीय मुख्यमंत्री जी के हाथ में उत्तर प्रदेश नहीं है। आप कह रहे हैं बुलडोजर नैरेटिव, मैं आपको बुलडोजर का नैरेटिव बता रहा हूं। अगर आपका बुलडोजर का नैरेटिव जरा सा भी कामयाब होता तो उत्तर प्रदेश हत्या में नंबर 1 नहीं होता। मारिया, हर 3 घंटे में एक हत्या उत्तर प्रदेश में मेरे होती है। मेरे उत्तर प्रदेश में हर 3 घंटे में एक बेटी को जहेज के मामले में जला दिया जाता है, उसे मार दिया जाता है। मेरे उत्तर प्रदेश में हर एक घंटे में
आप ये बोल रहे हैं आपके उत्तर प्रदेश में ये घटना होती है, तो फिर आपको और साथ देना चाहिए एक स्ट्रॉन्ग चीफ मिनिस्टर को जिन्होंने एक्शन लेने की हिम्मत की है, ताकि जो आप क्राइम का बता रहे हैं फिगर, वो नहीं हो क्राइम।
नहीं मारिया, मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि LIU हमारा इंटेलिजेंस प्रयागराज का क्या कर रहा था, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट गवाह थे। जब उनको पुलिस ने उठाया, अस्पताल में डॉक्टर नहीं था योगी आदित्यनाथ जी के अस्पताल में, आप बताओ वो बच सकते थे। वही हमने कहा कि जो मेन हत्यारे हैं वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी प्रयागराज के माइनॉरिटी विंग का परिवार का है, वो बीजेपी के नेताओं के साथ है सदाकत। और जो भी इसमें कातिल मर्डर हैं 2017 के बाद, वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के साथ उनकी तस्वीरें वायरल है। अखिलेश जी के बारे में पूरा देश जानता है कि जब से सूबे की कमान उनके हाथ में आई, जब से पार्टी का राष्ट्रीय पद उनके हाथ में आया, जितने भी दागी लोग थे, बिग नो एंट्री लगा दी गई समाजवादी पार्टी के दरवाजे पर।
पूछते हैं कि सदाकत खान का वो किस पार्टी से एसोसिएटेड है? समाजवादी पार्टी कहती है भाजपा से, भाजपा कहती है समाजवादी पार्टी से। Shehzad Poonawalla is also with me. Shehzad Poonawalla, a lot of questions being raised, but particularly in the context of, is this the right application of law? You have heard what I said in the, what various courts of India have said regarding bulldozer justice. I'm going to talk about it a little later, but specifically about the crime rate that is being talked about by the Samajwadi Party.
मारिया, सबसे पहले तो ये बड़ी अनोखी स्थिति है कि डिबेट पे आकर समाजवादी पार्टी के नेता बोलते हैं कार्रवाई करो, कार्रवाई करो, और जब कार्रवाई होती है तो सदन में इनके नेता बोलते हैं कार्रवाई क्यों की, कार्रवाई क्यों की। एक तस्वीर आपको दिखाना चाहता हूँ मारिया, और कहीं ना कहीं ये तस्वीर ही आपको बता देगी उत्तर प्रदेश कैसे बदला है। ये है अतीक अहमद, क्योंकि इस पूरे मामले की जड़ अतीक अहमद है ना। ये अतीक अहमद को किस प्रकार का संरक्षण मिला हुआ था, पोषण मिला हुआ था। संरक्षित और पोषण देने वाली एसपी पार्टी कौन सी थी जिसने उसको एमएलए, एमपी और लोकसभा की टिकट दी, जिसके कार्यकाल में पहले तो राजूपाल जी की हत्या की गई और आज वो अतीक अहमद जेल के भीतर है, वो यूपी नहीं आना चाहता। ये मुख्तार अंसारी का भी किस प्रकार का खौफ था, पंजाब में उसको कौन संरक्षण दे रहा था, आज वो मुख्तार अंसारी जो है यूपी आने से डर रहा था, जेल में आने से डर रहा था। ये खौफ का आलम बना हुआ है और ये इसलिए बना हुआ है मरिया जी क्योंकि आज एनसीआरबी का डेटा उठा के देखिए, क्राइम्स में रेप 70% कम हुआ है, मर्डर्स 29% कम हुआ है, लूटिंग 69% कम हुआ है। और मैं बाकी सब तो छोड़ दीजिए, अमीक जमाई बैठे हैं यहाँ पर,
तो अमीक जमाई कौन सा डेटा कोट कर रहे थे? अगर आप अपना ये बता रहे हैं, एनसीआरबी डेटा ये बोल रही है, तो अमीक जमाई का कौन सा डेटा है?
एक ही लाइन और दे दीजिए मारिया जी, एक ही लाइन दे दीजिए, उसके बाद अमीक जी जवाब दे क्योंकि वो बीच में इंटरप्शन हो जाएगा। मैं आपको डंके की चोट पर कह रहा हूं, मेरी सरकार ने पिछले 5 वर्षों में 3000 करोड़ से ज्यादा की संपत्ति कुर्क की है, तोड़ी है, डिमोलिश की है, जो ये माफियाओं की है। अमीक जी अपना आंकड़ा बता दे। अमीक जी तो आंकड़ा नहीं बता पाएंगे, उल्टा जो भी माफिया बना था, वन डिस्ट्रिक्ट मन माफिया के तहत समाजवादी पार्टी ने उसका पालन पोषण किया। जिस प्रकार से इनके यहां पर कट्टे की फैक्ट्री होती थी, आज डिफेंस कॉरिडोर बन रहा है उत्तर प्रदेश में। जिस प्रकार से यहां पे माफिया का उद्योग इन्होंने तैयार किया था, आज ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टर समिट हो रहा है योगी आदित्यनाथ जी के शासनकाल में। ये इसलिए हो रहा है क्योंकि जीरो टॉलरेंस टुवर्ड्स माफिया, जीरो टॉलरेंस टुवर्ड्स गुंडाइज्म और गुंडागर्दी, ये आज हमने करके दिखाया है। तो आज कृपया करके अमीक जमाई जी, आपके खुद के बुआ जी कहती थी, जिनके साथ आपने गठबंधन किया था, उन्होंने ये नारा निकाला था, चढ़ गुंडन की छाती पर वोट दबेगा हाथी पर। ये आप ही के फॉर्मर एलाइन ने आपके बारे में व्याख्या की है। तो कृपया करके आप बताइए कितने माफियाओं की जमीनें और प्रॉपर्टी को कुर्क और डेमोलिश करने का काम किया था। इसी से स्थिति स्पष्ट हो जाएगी। और अतीक अहमद को संरक्षण देने वाली पार्टी कौन सी थी जनाब, बताइए जरा।
मारिया, अखिलेश यादव जी पूरे भारत में सबसे नीट एंड क्लीन इमेज के चीफ मिनिस्टर रहे हैं। उनके पूरी पर्सनालिटी पे कोई भी करप्शन का किसी भी तरह का दाग आज तक नहीं लगा है। लेकिन ये जो शहजाद
अतीक अहमद कौन सी पार्टी से?
अरे सुनो ना, तुम पहले बात सुनो मेरी पूरी। ये जो आपके मुख्यमंत्री, मेरे मुख्यमंत्री है ना उत्तर प्रदेश,
कहां से एमएलए और एमपी थे बताइए ना एक बार।
अरे मेरी बात तो सुनिए आप, अरे बात तो सुनिए। मुख्यमंत्री जी सदन में आ गए, हमारे केशव मौर्य जी डिप्टी सीएम सदन में आ गए। अगर ये सरकार नहीं बनती तो हार्डकोर क्रिमिनल बैकग्राउंड के ये जो हमारे मुख्यमंत्री जी हैं और डिप्टी सीएम है ना, इनको हम विधायक बनने के भी लायक नहीं छोड़ते। आप मुख्यमंत्री बन गए, आपने सारे हीनियस क्राइम जो आपके ऊपर थे आपने उसको वापस करा दिए। मतलब तो आप माफियाओं पे तो बात करिए।
Maria, to call the elected chief minister hardcore criminal, does he have any evidence to this effect?
One moment, Amik Jamai, approach courts. No. My question is, if you're leveling this kind of charge against the chief minister, there are courts of the country. Why is the Samajwadi Party not approaching courts? Say that there is some kind of misdemeanor, that there is subversion that's happening. आपके पास evidence है, कोर्ट में जाइए।
मारिया, मेरा ये कहना है कि जो जिनका बैकग्राउंड दागी हो, उन्हें बेदाग होने की बात नहीं करनी चाहिए। अतीश जी हो या इस तरह के जितने भी माफिया हो।
चलिए मारिया, 10 सेकंड मुझे दे दीजिए आप केवल।
अखिलेश यादव जी ने बिग नो एंट्री लगाई समाजवादी पार्टी के अंदर, किसी की भी एंट्री नहीं है।
तो अतीक अहमद को सैक करिए, सैक अतीक अहमद।
10 सेकंड मारिया।
अतीक अहमद मेरी पार्टी में नहीं है, पार्टी में है। ये जो बीएसपी के बैठे हैं हमारे नेता, वो बताएं।
चलिए बताइए।
बीजेपी का बीएसपी का बहुत दोस्ती चल रहा है।
ओके धर्मवीर चौधरी,
मारिया 10 सेकंड केवल दे दीजिए।
ओके श्योर, गो अहेड शहजाद।
केवल 10 सेकंड मिलेगा मारिया। मारिया, आज जो ये लोग बातें बड़ी बड़ी कर रहे हैं, इनसे सिर्फ इतना पूछिए, गायत्री प्रजापति जो कन्विक्टेड है पॉक्सो का, उसकी बीवी को टिकट किसने दिया है? ये सफेद एकदम अच्छी छवि वाले व्यक्ति ने, जो सबसे ज्यादा क्रिमिनल एलिमेंट्स जिसको टिकट मिला पिछली बार के चुनाव में, एडीआर की रिपोर्ट उठाकर देखिए, समाजवादी पार्टी। और ये बात हकीकत है कि शाइस्ता परवीन जो अतीक अहमद की बीवी है, वो आजकल बसपा में है, परंतु इससे पहले समाजवादी पार्टी के टिकट पर ही चुनकर आने का काम अतीक अहमद ने किया है। और किस प्रकार का संरक्षण कांग्रेस ने, समाजवादी ने, बसपा ने इन लोगों को, इस पूरे इकोसिस्टम को दिया है, ये किसी छुपी बात नहीं है।
धर्मवीर चौधरी, let me ask you about that question. Mayawati has said that she will take action against Shaista Parveen. Is that action likely? But the other question can be that why should an action be taken against her at all? What is her crime?
देखिए मारिया जी, ये जो नूरा कुश्ती में दोनों प्रवक्ताओं की टीवी की डिबेट में देख पा रहा हूं, वही नूरा कुश्ती प्रदेश की देश की जनता विधानसभा में देख रही है अखिलेश यादव और योगी आदित्यनाथ जी की। योगी आदित्यनाथ जी इस प्रदेश में लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के मामले में बिल्कुल फेल हो गए हैं। ये सरकार बिल्कुल फेल हो गई है। चाहे वो गृह राज्य मंत्री टैनी के लड़के ने किसानों को कुचल के मारने का काम किया हो, और चाहे वो अभी हाल फिलहाल में कानपुर में बुलडोजर बाबा ने भेज करके एक माँ बेटी को राख में मिलाने का काम किया हो, और चाहे वो अभी जो है वो उमेश पाल एडवोकेट की हत्या का मामला हो, ये उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार बिल्कुल विफल हो गई है। और उसका कारण ये है मारिया जी कि ये जो सरकार है इसमें एडीआर की रिपोर्ट ये बताती है कि इनके करीब 125 एमएलए दागी हैं जिन पर संगीन आपराधिक मुकदमे दर्ज है। सरकार हमेशा एक सिलेक्टिव कार्रवाई करती है और जाति और धर्म देख करके कार्रवाई करती है। मेरे पास में एक लिस्ट है जो योगी आदित्यनाथ जी की बरादरी के कम से कम 2 दर्जन माफिया हैं। ये शहजाद पूनावाला एक शब्द नहीं बोल पाएंगे। ये हमेशा जो है एक जाति और धर्म के आतंकवादी और गुंडों और माफियाओं का नाम लेकर के एक पूरे समाज को बदनाम करने का काम करते हैं। लेकिन मैं इनसे ये पूछना चाहता हूं कि ये बुलडोजर जो है कुलदीप सेंगर के घर कब जाएगा? ये बुलडोजर जो अभी मां बेटी को जला के राख कर दिया, उन अधिकारियों के घर जो दोषी हैं उनके घर कब जाएगा? धनंजय सिंह से लेकर के, चुलबुल सिंह से लेकर के, ब्रजभूषण शरण सिंह से लेकर के, सोनू सिंह, मोनू सिंह से लेकर के, ये जो 1 दर्जन 2 दर्जन माफिया पाल रखे हैं योगी आदित्यनाथ ने, इनके घर पे ये बुलडोजर कब जाएगा? लेकिन ये बुलडोजर नहीं जाएगा। हाँ, ये अगर नेहा सिंह राठौर 2 लाइन बोल देंगी कि यूपी में काबा, तो उनको पुलिस जरूर नोटिस भेज देगी, उनके पति की नौकरी को भी छीन लेगी। ये 200 से ज्यादा पत्रकारों पर एफआईआर दर्ज करते हैं। इस उत्तर प्रदेश में क्राइम का ये मामला है कि हर 2 घंटे के अंदर एनसीआरबी का आंकड़ा कहता है कि एक बहन बेटी के साथ में रेप होता है, बलात्कार होता है, लेकिन उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार कान में तेल डाल के
ओके शहजाद, दिस इज अबाउट सिलेक्टिव एक्शन. Selective action, as BSP is alleging, and that you seem to overlook crimes of certain communities.
देखिए, हमारे साथ इस शो में विक्रम सिंह जी बैठे हैं और आज मुझे शर्म आती है कि जब हम माफिया पे एक्शन की बात करते तो इसमें भी बिरादरी को ले आए हैं। सोचिए इस बात को कि क्योंकि एक अरबाज एनकाउंटर में मारा गया या ये जफर इस्लाम जो
ब्रजभूषण शरण सिंह है
उसका घर ढाया गया। अब मारिया एक एक करके बात रख सकते हैं। मारिया, मैं किसी के बीच में नहीं बोला। मारिया, मैं किसी के बीच में नहीं बोला। मारिया आवाज ऊंची करनी है या तर्क ऊंचा करना है?
धर्मवीर जी, आपने अपनी पॉइंट रख लिया, अब शहजाद की बात सुन लीजिए।
मारिया, मैं पूछना चाहता हूं, ये अरबाज की गोली से जो उमेश पाल मारा गया, उसकी जाति धर्म कौन सी थी भाई? ये जो विकास दुबे के गोलियों से मारा गया है, उनकी जाति धर्म कौन सी थी भाई? ये जो अभी ये हमला हुआ उमेश पाल पे, उनके गनर मारे गए, उनकी जाति धर्म कौन सी थी भाई? वो धर्म जाति भूल जाते हैं। और क्योंकि आज अरबाज पे कार्रवाई हो गई या शाइस्ता परवीन पे कार्रवाई हो रही है, तो उनको आप धर्म और जाति का कवर दे रहे हैं। यही सोच, यही विकृत सोच की वजह से ये माफियाओं को धर्म और जाति के आधार पर संरक्षण देने का काम किया गया है। आज बिना जाति धर्म देखे 170 एनकाउंटर हुए हैं। आज बिना जाति धर्म देखे आज 16,000 गैंगस्टर्स के ऊपर गैंगस्टर एक्ट लगाया गया है। आज बिना जाति धर्म देखे 3,000 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी की ढाई गई है। ना ए ना बी, जो कानून तोड़ेगा उसको मिट्टी में मिला दिया जाएगा। कान खोल के सुनो।
डॉक्टर विक्रम सिंह, you heard the politicians. My question to you is, this action that is being taken, the bulldozer move, if you look at what various courts have said, they are calling this a criminal action. What is the point of bringing down somebody's ancestral home?
Maria, it is not very simple thing as it is made out to be. If there is an illegal construction or construction which is blatantly illegal and has exhausted all channels of appeal, or in any case where the demolition order has been made, the bulldozer shall, not will, but shall be used under the provisions of law. Any instrument of law, whether it's a bulldozer or an AK-47 or FM Browning pistol, If used within the ambit of law, it is legitimate. If beyond the Lakshman Rekha of law, it is illegitimate. Of course, there cannot be indiscriminate, illegal, and illegitimate, perverse, or irregular use of the bulldozer. That is totally unacceptable. But whatever action is being taken, it is within the ambit of law and subject to judicial scrutiny also. Let us not live in an illusion that it cannot be subjected to judicial scrutiny, because police is not the be-all and the in Prayagraj also. For everybody's information, the complainant is the Prayagraj Development Authority and not the police. The illegal constructions that are there are being demolished at the request of the Prayagraj Development. The police and the magistracy are there to ensure peaceful demolition of illegal constructions. Now you'll ask me, why single out these two buildings? The fact of the matter is that they dialed the wrong number, the assassins, and they chose to convert Prayagraj into some kind of Vasepur, hurling bombs, shooting in broad daylight, killing a constable, killing Ramesh Pal. Therefore, first come, first serve. Since they quoted the recipe of disaster for themselves and the family, their homes are being razed because they gave an opportunity to the government to single them out and see what their ill-gotten wealth is, which deserves to be demolished, and therefore they were demolished. Then again, Maria, the question, why not all the others?
Yes.
Well, if there's an occasion, there should be. But the question is very legitimate. Why single out those who are accused in this case? The fact of the matter is the government has the prerogative to pick out what their priority is. And if their priority is, I would agree with Shehzad Poonawala Sahab that I would not fault the prioritization of the government to choose the timing of the demolition of any structure.
And what will you tell Dharamveer Singh, who is saying that there is some kind of selective action?
Selective, that the like of the Prayagraj incident has not happened for many, many months or years. I don't remember anything happening like this. And therefore, if the entire might of the police and the government and the administration has gone after the assassins, so be it, I do not fault them. Of course, it seems to be selective only to ensure that the mafia, the assassins, do not get away and the maximum damage is done to them and their ill-gotten wealth.
All right. Desh Ratna Nigam, the question is, what does it do to the larger image of Yogi Adityanath? Of course, this is his second term. He has sent a tough message that Uttar Pradesh is scripting, a new chapter for itself in which they believe in investors, they believe in investor summit, and as far as any kind of broad daylight crime is concerned, an action has to be taken, and it will be taken very fast.
Well, Maria, in fact, the one simple principle for law enforcement agencies and the governance is the action must be taken, action must appear to have been taken also. So it must send a clear message to the mafia, which is an organized crime, which has far greater grave and dangerous impact on the society as compared to individual random crimes. So this kind of an action is appropriate and should be taken, and mafia has to be decimated. And clearly here two different laws are there. You rightly pointed out, Maria, that under the criminal law, demolition is not allowed. But yes, under separate laws, when the buildings, the due process has been done on buildings, it has been found illegal and all opportunities have been given, it can be demolished. So the government took the opportunity and combined unofficially the criminal law as well as the other laws, which they are within their rights. No law stops them from doing so, because mafia has to be sent a clear message that you cannot take UP so lightly as to kill somebody in broad daylight. And it is appropriate today, and this strengthens Yogi Adityanath. He has always maintained zero tolerance. Yes, crimes do take place, but what is the response of the government is very important. Yes, the government, I clearly remember, I come from UP, and we have seen what was the effect in Samajwadi Party's time. I would still say during BSP times, we have all seen the criminals had run away. But Samajwadi Party, when it came to power, and it is backed by NCRB data. Please look at NCRB data, which is clearly says the crime has been continuously going down. And yes, the crime rate is still to be brought down, no doubt about it. But continuously it has been going down. Whether it is loot, dacoity, theft, crime against women, rape, continuously. Anybody can read that report.
Before I go back to the politicians, a quick word from you, Dr. Vikram Singh. Dr. Vikram Singh, I'm sure you would have analyzed the various tenure of various political parties, be it Mayawati, Akhilesh Yadav, and now Yogi Adityanath. When it comes to action against criminals, who would you rate as most efficient?
Thank you, Maria, for the very political question. And I know there is a doctrine of you cannot incriminate yourself. But yes, I have seen 36 years in service.
Yes.
And I have also seen all kinds of shades of government. But you put a very honest question. And I, at my age station of life, have no political ambition whatsoever. I would say Yogi Adityanath is a generation ahead of Mayawati ji. And both of them are generations ahead of all the others.
All right, that's a very political response again. Dr. Vikram Singh, Amik Jamai, here is a direct question that has been raised. Why give this a community color? Why should this action be seen as why shouldn't it be seen as just action against criminals? Why should, what Dharamveer Singh is saying, that this is some kind of action only against a particular community?
मारिया, समाजवादी पार्टी को एक्शन से ना कोई दिक्कत थी, ना है, ना होगी। लेकिन हम ये पूछना चाहते हैं कि क्या ये जो गुजरात में बैठ के आप जो बिरयानी खिला रहे हैं, ये उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार का सहयोग है, केंद्र की सरकार का सहयोग है, ये आपको बताना पड़ेगा। क्या जो मेन शूटर्स हैं जिनके नाम आए हैं, वो तो अभी तक गिरफ्त में नहीं आए हैं। समाजवादी पार्टी को समस्या यहां पर है। अब प्रॉब्लम क्या है मारिया, कि उत्तर प्रदेश के जो हमारे मुख्यमंत्री जी हैं, उन्हें लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के बारे में कुछ पता ही नहीं है। वो भाषण देते हैं, मिट्टी में मिला दूंगा, मैं पता नहीं क्या कर दूंगा। अब आप आइए, गृह विभाग का जो हमारा बजट है, 33,000 करोड़ का एलोकेशन था पिछले साल का। हमारे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी, जिनके हाथ में गृह विभाग है, पुलिस उनके पास है, आपको मालूम है हमारे यहाँ ये सिर्फ 19,000 करोड़ रुपए खर्च कर पाए। हमारा 1090 जो महिलाओं का हेल्पलाइन था, वो कोलैप्स पड़ा हुआ है। डायल 112 आधे घंटे काम नहीं करता है। आप फोन करिए, आधे घंटे के बाद रिस्पॉन्स रेट है, जिसको माननीय अखिलेश जी ने 8 मिनट का रिस्पॉन्स रेट बनाया था। तो हमारा ये कहना है कि जब आपके पास वर्ल्ड क्लास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है समाजवादी पार्टी का दिया हुआ, तो हर 2 घंटे में 3 घंटे में एक बेटी का रेप होता है, एक महिला के साथ वायलेंस होता है, हर 3 घंटे पे एक हत्या होती है उत्तर प्रदेश में। ये सब दिखाता है कि आदरणीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी सरकार नहीं चला पा रहे हैं। आईएएस आईपीएस इनके कंट्रोल में नहीं है।
चलिए, किसके कंट्रोल में फिर शहजाद पूनावाला? किसके कंट्रोल में है सब आईएएस आईपीएस?
ये दिल्ली के कंट्रोल में है, दिल्ली से चलता है मामला।
इतनी हास्यास्पद बात है कि जिस पार्टी ने अतीक अहमद को पालन पोषण किया, जिस पार्टी ने आतंकवादियों को छोड़ने का महापाप किया, यहाँ तक कि कोर्ट ने उस पर रोक लगा के कहा कि पद्मश्री भी दे दीजिए, जिस पार्टी ने अहमद मुर्तुज़ा जो गोरखपुर में हमला करने गया था उसको क्लीन चिट देने का काम किया, आज उस पार्टी के प्रवक्ता बोल रहे हैं रिस्पॉन्स टाइम बहुत कम है। भाई, आपका तो रिस्पॉन्स ये था कि माफियाओं को आप टिकट दे देकर सदन में पहुंचाते थे, हम उनको जहां उनकी जगह है वहां पहुंचाते हैं, अन्यथा जेल में पहुंचाते हैं, अन्यथा उनके घरों को और उनकी प्रॉपर्टीज को तबाह करते हैं। तो मुझे लगता है, देखिए मारिया, मुझे लगता है कि बिलबिलाना एक पॉलिटिकल रिस्पॉन्स नहीं हो सकता। आप अपने समय पे बोले, मैं अपने समय पे बोलूं, बिलबिलाइए मत। अब सुन लीजिए मारिया जी, क्या मैं अपनी बात रख सकता हूं? धन्यवाद।
क्या होता है?
नहीं, मुस्कुराकर ही पूछिए और हम भी। क्या मैं अपनी बात रख सकता हूं? देखिए, मैंने केवल शुरुआत से एक ही सवाल पूछा है। अमीक जमई का अभी तक उत्तर नहीं आया है। अमीक जमई, क्या ये अतीक अहमद 2017 के बाद एक गैंगस्टर बना है, माफिया बना है? उससे पहले इसकी पृष्ठभूमि तो गैंगस्टर वाली थी। किसने टिकट दिया था 2014 में? जरा एक बार तो बताइए। और ये जो गायत्री प्रजापति है, जो महिला उत्पीड़न का सबसे बड़ा पोस्टर बॉय है, बॉयज विल बी बॉयज वाला, तो आप बताइए कि उसके परिवार से किसी को टिकट दिया है या नहीं दिया है? इसका जवाब केवल दे दीजिए, इधर उधर की बात मत कीजिए। आप बताइए।
अच्छा, मुझे आप ये बताइए कि आदरणीय मुख्यमंत्री जी के ऊपर,
अरे इसका जवाब दीजिए ना मियां।
गंभीर अपराध, क्यों बात नहीं होगी?
आप जाइए सुप्रीम कोर्ट में, कल केस दायर कर दीजिए उनके खिलाफ। कल वो सारा सबूत लेकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट चले जाइए। अब इसका जवाब दीजिए। चलिए,
इस मामले में एक साथ खड़े हैं, आप लोग डरते हैं आपका कुछ फंसा होगा। मेरा कुछ नहीं फंसा है, मेरे पर कोई बर्डन नहीं है, इसलिए मैं बोल रहा हूं आपको। तो जब आपका दामन साफ नहीं है ना, गायत्री जी की जो बीवी है वो क्रिमिनल नहीं है, गायत्री जी का बेटा जो है ना वो क्रिमिनल नहीं है, उसकी बीवी क्रिमिनल है।
समझ रहे हैं मारिया जी? मतलब अभी शाइस्ता परवीन पे इन्होंने बसपा को सवाल पूछा, अभी शाइस्ता परवीन पे इस व्यक्ति ने बसपा को सवाल पूछा, परंतु गायत्री प्रजापति की बीवी को टिकट देना जायज है, और वो अहमदाबाद ब्लास्ट के फादर को अपने मुख्यमंत्री के चेंबर में बुलाना और उसको वहां पर बिरयानी खिलाना जायज है, आतंकवादियों की पैरवी करना जायज है, मुर्तजा को पागल बताकर क्लीन चिट देना जायज।
शहजाद पूनावाला, अमीक जमई, धर्मवीर चौधरी, Dr. Vikram Singh and Desh Ratn Nigam. Shifting focus to our second focus, India is spearheading the global agenda with the meeting of the G20 foreign ministers in the national capital. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has held a slew of meetings with his counterparts from Britain, Russia, Canada, Mexico, the European and the African Union. He also held meetings with representatives from non-G20 nations like Singapore, Bhutan and Bangladesh. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang will also attend the summit tomorrow. A meeting of the Quad countries, the United States, Australia, India and Japan is also scheduled to be held on the sidelines. The meeting is one of the biggest events ahead of the final summit, which is slated to take place in September. And this comes amidst growing tensions between India and China over the line of actual control. China is also at loggerheads with the United States over the spy balloon row. And the friction is also continuing between the US and Russia after the first anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine, with the Biden regime pledging more arms. Many Western powers are looking to India to play the role of peacemaker. Breaking news coming in now that US Secretary of State Antony Blinken makes it clear that the United States has no plans to meet his Russian and Chinese counterparts. So there'll be no meeting that will be taking place between Antony Blinken and Lavrov or Antony Blinken and Qin Gang.
At the G20, Russia and China will both be sending their foreign ministers. Do you plan to talk to them one-on-one or talk to them in a group setting? And what do you plan to say to them about the Ukraine war?
No plans to see either at the G20, although I suspect that we'll certainly be in group sessions of one kind or another together.
Abhishek Jha is joining me live. Abhishek, of course, this was expected, and Blinken saying in no uncertain terms that there is no question of having any kind of bilateral with these two countries. The question is, what about India? Who all is Jaishankar expected to meet tomorrow? Because there's just 1 hour a time that has been given for these bilaterals.
So, Maria, clearly Secretary Blinken had rescheduled or postponed his visit to China in the wake of this whole balloon controversy that have been flying over USA. But it looked like that that is still there. The problem that has started with that balloon is still very much there between USA and China in diplomatic relations. He has also made clear that he's not going to have any meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, which could have led to some sort of negotiation in Russia-Ukraine war. But what we know that India has been playing this role of presidency of G20 at a very crucial time when the geopolitical tensions are very high, and Russia-Ukraine war of 1 year has actually impacted almost all aspect of our day-to-day life in terms of geopolitics, economy, global supply chain, fuel shortage, or the crisis of fuel, fertilizer shortage, food crisis that has given rise to inflation across the economy. So there are issues like climate change, sustainable development, issues of cyber security and new artificial intelligence, how to integrate this in our security challenges. So clearly, a lot of issues other than Ukraine-Russia war is also there, with the foreign ministers will, of course, deliberate. But this whole meeting is clearly being overshadowed by Russia-Ukraine conflict that has been going on for 1 year now.
All right, Abhishek Jha, thank you so much. That will be our big coverage tomorrow on CNN News 18. The G20 foreign ministers meeting will be taking place at Rashtrapati Bhavan, and around 8 a.m. when the results of the 3 northeastern states will be coming, the foreign ministers will start arriving for that crucial summit. Let me bring in my guests, Professor Brahmachalani, strategic affairs expert. Tatiana Kukureva is Russian journalist from Moscow. Edward P. Joseph is senior fellow joining me from Washington, D.C. Professor Chalani, This meeting is happening in the shadow of Russia war in Ukraine and what is visibly spiraling US-China tensions. How will host India bring issues like climate change and third world debt to the foreground?
Well, that's the big question. Rarely before have so many foreign ministers of so many important countries descended on New Delhi. India, as the host, has to find ways to bridge the global divide over the war in Ukraine and build cooperation in the G20 forum. Unfortunately, what's happening, and we saw that in Bali, in Indonesia last year, that the G20 is becoming increasingly politicized. And the war in Ukraine has only furthered the politicization of G20. If the G20 gets increasingly politicized, this will cast a shadow over the future of multilateralism. The G20 is an economic forum, and bringing in political and security issues impedes forward movement on issues that are facing the world in the economic and financial realm. And therefore, for India, as the president of G20 this year, the challenge is quite a big challenge. How do you surmount the new global divide over the war in Ukraine?
Okay, Edward Joseph, Antony Blinken saying clearly that there's no question of having a meeting with the Chinese and the Russians. We saw what happened in the case of finance ministers meeting in Bangalore. There has been no joint statement that came out, and the differences clearly played out with all sides finally settling in for a summary document. Do you think it's important for India to really ensure that there is a final document or a joint statement that is arrived at?
Yes. So first, let me say nice to be with you and the other guests and, of course, your viewers. And the answer to your question is absolutely. It's terribly important for India to ensure that there is a communique, but of course there may not be, and India may again take the role of and assert its leadership here, because the dispute, and it's absurd, really, the dispute is over the use of the word war. So that is what Russia and China objected to, if anyone can believe that. They objected to the inclusion of the word war at the finance minister's communique, and that was in that case, India had to step forward and use it, and India will do that again, I'm confident, because Prime Minister Modi himself has told Vladimir Putin that this is not an era for war. So yes. Prime Minister Modi himself has used the word war, and he will. We have to remember here, this is not some balanced thing where there's some differences, Russia and China here, and the US and the EU and NATO on the other side, and some other countries in the middle. This is unprovoked Russian aggression that has been confirmed as such by the United Nations General Assembly by a vote of 141 to 5. So we're not talking about, well, they have their view and the West has its view. It's not that at all. This is unprovoked aggression, and I'm confident that Prime Minister Modi in India will take its responsible leadership role at this important G20 summit. Please.
Yes. Tatiana, the question really is that India has said very clearly, and Prime Minister Modi himself said, that this is not the era for war, and that going ahead, there are other global challenges which have to be attended to, and New Delhi has this intention of playing the role, or I should say the voice of Global South. The question then is that, Russia also understands that it is the country which started this war. And with the situation that Russia is in, it's been a year since the war, a mention of that should not have been much of an issue at the finance ministers summit.
Well, look, I'm quite frankly confused, because that's more than one question in one. I do believe that whatever the finance ministers found, and finance ministers of Russia and China found important, that must have been important for them at the moment. As far as the situation that Russia is in, I am quite confused as to what exactly you are referring to.
the question certainly would be that if there is a foreign ministers meeting and Russia and China, both of them had objected to issuing of a joint statement, is it not an overreaction to think that if there is a war that is used, a phrase like this is not the era of war, then it should not have been much of a problem for Russia? That's the question that I wish to ask.
Well, look, first and foremost, I don't believe that I am in a position to decide for the finance ministers of both countries whether it is or is not important. However, if we look at the phrasing of it, we can't talk about this is not the era for wars. I mean, this is an era in which we're living in a global war, so to speak, against Russia. The global Western war against Russia. So to say that would have been at least hypocritical on the part of the foreign ministers. It's a very weird statement to ask Russia to make or to sign its, any sort of name under.
Okay, Edward
Russia
Joseph
has been dealing with the unstoppable weapon supplies to Ukraine, the incredible amount of funds dedicated to the military in Ukraine from every single Western nation. What do you call this if not war?
Okay, Edward Joseph, because, on one hand, you have Chinese diplomat Wang Yi say clearly that as far as US handling of the balloon incident is concerned, it's hysterical and unimaginable. You have, all this foreign ministers meeting tomorrow coming up in the backdrop of Joe Biden's visit to Kyiv, and now this important Blinken press conference, which is likely tomorrow. Do you think, because there are so many differences in the backdrop of what our geopolitical situation is, there would be some kind of tension, and as far as critical issues are concerned, climate change and others, which India wants as the main issue or agenda of discussion, that may not happen.
That's right, and it's perfectly understandable that India wants to focus on climate change. I think the United States and its allies and partners in Europe and in the West and in Asia, Africa, and Latin America also want to focus on climate change. The problem, unfortunately, is that Vladimir Putin won't allow that. That's the fact here. And unfortunately, in response to the views that expressed by the other speaker here that just simply ignore the statement of the global community, not the West, the global community, repeatedly, beginning 1 year ago, this month in March, by a vote of 141 to 5, the United Nations General Assembly, that's the global community, voted 141 to 5 to condemn, and this is the words, deplore in the strongest possible terms Russian aggression. It's been repeatedly affirmed. Again, not the West. The West is forced to provide weapons simply as a defense for Ukraine. If the U.S. and its NATO and partners don't provide it, then Vladimir Putin's aggression wins. The United States, it's costly to provide these weapons. It's costly, but it's necessary because of the slaughter that Vladimir Putin has decided to perpetrate. And by the way, killing many untrained Russian soldiers in the way. With respect to your question about China and the United States, again, India, Prime Minister Modi has a real challenge here to manage this G20, very important G20 summit, because yes, there are very significant differences between China and the United States as well at this time, both because of this balloon incident where China sent this surveillance balloon over the United States, objected to it being shot down. There have been other balloons that have been down. Canada has also seen the same type of phenomenon. And as you heard the press conference by Secretary Blinken, he says he will not be meeting either his Russian counterpart or his Chinese counterpart at the summit, except in those joint sessions.
Okay.
Please.
Tatiana, quick response from you, and then I'll give the final words to Professor Brahmachalani. Tatiana, if you can hear me. Okay. Professor Chilani, yes, the challenge is for India because India is the host country and India wants to really send the big message that it can bring these countries on a talking table, and not only on the talking table because, you know, we are the host nation, it will be setting the agenda going ahead. And if it is happening in the backdrop of all those geopolitical tensions, then what will India be able to achieve? Professor Chilani. Okay, Professor Brahma Chilani, if you can hear me.
Are you asking me?
Yes, yes. Professor Brahma Chilani, that's a question to you, sir.
Yes, to me, okay.
Yes.
Because I didn't actually hear you.
Yes.
Let's be clear on one thing. The G20 is the world's main economic forum. But unfortunately, what's happening is that geopolitical issues are holding the G20 hostage today. This is very unfortunate because if there is no consensus at the G20, there cannot be any forward movement. The G20 works by consensus. And therefore, to allow the war in Ukraine to cast a cloud over the G20's functioning is really very unfortunate. India as a president can only work toward building a consensus, can work toward overcoming the global divide over the war in Ukraine. But India as a president alone cannot achieve consensus. It needs the cooperation of all the important players. It needs the cooperation of the United States and its allies. It needs the cooperation of China and Russia. Without such cooperation, this meeting of foreign ministers and then the upcoming summit of the G20 will achieve little. We saw how difficult the Bali process of the G20 was, and we don't want a repeat of that in India this year.
Just to help us understand, Professor Chilani, how has it happened in the past? Whenever a country has hosted G20 and there have been, in the background, some tensions between multiple nations, has a consensus been arrived at and a joint statement, was it ever issued?
The world has never been free of conflict. International conflict is endemic. We have seen invasions of sovereign states repeatedly in this century alone. But that does not mean that you actually allow multilateralism to fade away. The G20 in the past has been able to function despite international conflict. What we are witnessing since last year is holding the G20 hostage to this new global divide over the war in Ukraine. If the G20 doesn't function, how do we make any progress on the issues that confront the world? For example, according to the IMF, 60% of the low-income countries in the world today are facing dire financial stress. That dire financial stress that they face is in a way linked to the conflict in Ukraine because it's just not the Russian invasion of Ukraine that's having a global impact. The Western sanctions on Russia, the world's richest country in natural resources, it was the world's largest exporter of energy before the war in Ukraine. Those sanctions are also having a major global impact. Therefore, while ending the war is very important now, the G20 needs to function. The war itself has reached a stalemate. The grinding nature of the war reflects that fact that the war has reached a stalemate. When a war reaches a stalemate, you have to make efforts to bring about a ceasefire. So the focus should now be on an armistice, on a ceasefire, and not allow multilateralism, including the G20, to remain hostage to this conflict in Ukraine.
Thank you so much, Professor Chilani, Tatiana and Edward Joseph, for your time. Of course, the big focus tomorrow will be the G20 Foreign Affairs Ministers meeting, which will be taking place in New Delhi. We are slipping into a short break. Up next, this is the big CNN News 18 impact. The Bihar government orders the formation of a special investigation tribunal to probe the alleged assault of a Galwan martyr's father over the building of a memorial for his son. The details after a quick break. Stay with us.
confident to show himself, distance himself from the two of them. And if this was the reason, if portfolio management was the reason, why wasn't Satyendra Jain asked to resign earlier?
No, but why are you saying that he's going to distance himself from them? Shalini Singh was saying that it's not a question of distancing. They're completely backing both their ministers, and she's saying it's not an admission of guilt. Why do you say this is Kejriwal distancing himself from his two associates?
The reason why I say this is because he knows that Manish Sisodia is not going to come out in a jiffy. It'll take him a while. We heard what Supreme Court said, and we know that the High Court will be looking at all the investigation details and the evidence that has been submitted. So, which is why it's impossible for Arvind Kejriwal to continue with the two. Now, what happens with the not just the image, which is of course has been a big hit for them, but the expansion plans of Aam Aadmi Party. Do you see him keeping Manish Sisodia in charge of the portfolios while he's in the jail, along with Satyendra Jain, as well as many others, to be seen as somebody with them asking votes, especially somebody who comes from a anti-corruption background? I mean, that was the genesis of this party, wasn't it? That's why all of us were there. I think
that's a fair point to ask, that you can't go to Gujarat or to Karnataka or Rajasthan or wherever else Aam Aadmi Party wants to expand next, Ishkaran Bhandari, and ask for votes in the name of an anti-corruption plank when two of your most important ministers are in jail. Now, again, no one is saying that they are guilty. Nothing has been proven in a court of law. These cases have not gone to trial yet. But you cannot, in the court of public perception, you cannot be asking for the votes of people on an anti-corruption plank when two of your closest ministers are in jail.
Zaka, if you are pronounced guilty, then it's a matter of law that you cannot hold office. Judgments have come if you are pronounced guilty for more than 2 years. So this is obviously a morality area. And we have traveled a lot from the days of Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri, who resigned for a railway accident, even though that cannot strictly be ascribed to the minister. And in this case, Mr. Satyendra Jain's case, a PIL was moved in the Delhi High Court, where the Delhi High Court dismissed that PIL, saying that it's the cabinet, the chief minister's decision to keep somebody in the cabinet or not cabinet. They didn't want to interfere in it. They didn't want to usurp the powers of the chief minister. But increasingly, it would have become untenable if a minister like Mr. Sisodia in jail with 18 portfolios, and further petitions would have been filed, which would have probably caused further embarrassment, whatever be the legal decision. Thus, I think it is not an extraordinary thing for them to have resigned. But what is interesting in this case is, as you started the debate, why one person's resignation was not taken for 9 months, why the other person resigned in 2 months, Delhi being the capital and the political capital. There would be a lot of speculation on that, which is for Aam Aadmi Party to answer. But definitely, as a practice, morality, a person in jail should not be a minister, be it from any party.
No, Manasvi Thapar, one other question that Delhiites are asking tonight is, why is the Chief Minister not taking any of these portfolios? Between Manish Sisodia and Mr. Satyendra Jain, they control more than 20 portfolios. The Chief Minister is a Chief Minister without any portfolios. I mean, people of Delhi did not vote for Kailash Gehlot or for R.K. Anand. They voted for Kejriwal. Why is Mr. Kejriwal not taking any portfolios?
Zaga, it's a very interesting question, but the reality is lots of chief ministers don't take up lots of portfolios. While Modi ji was the chief minister of Gujarat, he did not have the most of the cabinet ministry. While people voted for him, the ministers keep on changing and the ministry keep on shuffling while he was here in Gujarat. So it's upon the chief minister, it's upon the cabinet council. But the reality is, I think it's a great step when there is an allegation, when there is a pre-trial until you are proven guilty. While the trial is on, you resign for your position. It's a great step from Lal Bahadur Shastri. Right now we are seeing Manish Sisodia doing it. It reminds me of the case of Lakhimpur Kiri, where Ashish Mishra did not resign while his son was still there.
No. Manasvi, one second. Let me reframe my question. Of course, it's the prerogative of the Chief Minister. He can decide who's part of the cabinet. He can decide which portfolio goes to who. And if he so chooses, he doesn't want any portfolios, that's up to him. But the point is this. When I say people of Delhi voted for Kejriwal, they did not vote for Kejriwal to go and campaign in Gujarat or campaign in Punjab or campaign in Maharashtra. They want Kejriwal to run Delhi. The business of running Delhi had been effectively given to Mr. Sisodia and now to Mr. Gehlot. Mr. Gehlot controls, I think, about more than 10 portfolios. He is de facto running the administration of Delhi while Mr. Kejriwal is busy expanding the party. That's the intent of my question.
Zaka, you are bang on that, but the same question could be reframed in a way that why does the Prime Minister go to different states to campaign, and he's the biggest campaigner of this country, and BJP is proud of him to be a campaigner. While he's the Prime Minister of the country, his business is to run the country. He is still the biggest campaigner and the most campaigned person in this country right now since 2014. I think before that, while he was in Gujarat. So that's upon the personality, that's upon the party to decide, that's upon the state to the council members to take a decision on that. And if this is the question on Arvind Kejriwal, this could be a bigger question on the Prime Minister of this country.
Shall we answer that? Because at the end of the day, I mean, if Prime Minister Modi can go to Karnataka and to Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, wherever elections are due, and campaign and become, you know, the biggest mascot and the election campaign chief of the BJP, then why?
Welcome back. This is a big CNN News 18 impact. The Bihar government has finally taken action over the alleged police assault of the father of Galwan martyr Jai Kishore Singh. The Bihar DGP has ordered the formation of an SIT under the CID to probe the incident and has promised disciplinary action if any police personnel was found guilty. Earlier today, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh spoke with Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and expressed his displeasure. BJP MLAs also staged a demonstration in front of the State Assembly. The Chief Minister has ordered, in fact, he has assured a fair inquiry. Jai Kishore Singh's family alleged that police thrashed his father for building a memorial in Vaishali.
रक्षा मंत्री जी ने आज हमको सुबह फोन किया है और उन्होंने बताया वहां की घटना का प्रस्ताव दिया, एक आदमी मर गए और उनके परिवार को जिस तरह से तंग किया है, हमने उनको बता दिया कि कल ही हम लोगों को मालूम हुआ है। हमने अधिकारियों को कहा है कि भाई इसका चलता क्या है, क्यों किया है कोई उसको तंग और काहे गिरफ्तार किया है, और उस पर सब तरह का यहां से जाकर के उसका जांच हो रहा है।
Saurav, who got us that story, is joining me live from Patna. Saurav, the question is that everything seems to be belated. What kind of justice should be given to this family? What is it that the family wants?
See, Maria, when Jai Kishore Singh gave his life, he sacrificed his life for the country in 2020 in June during Galwan clashes. The family had demanded that a memorial should be set up for the respect of the martyr, and following that, many leaders of Bihar, they all went there and they had promised that a memorial will be set up. Now, this issue of memorial now has converted to a land dispute, and after that, a series of events have happened in 2 years, and the status quo is right now that the land is a disputable land, and because of that, the memorial was not able to be built. Now, on 25th of February, the father of the martyr was allegedly abused, thrashed, and was sent to jail on the charges of SC/ST Act. And then, when we came across about this story, we were the first channel to show our audience about the real truth behind this story, how a father of a martyr was thrashed by Vaishali police as alleged by the family. And after that, right from yesterday morning, we have been tracking this story. And today, finally, the defense minister of our country had spoken to the chief minister of Bihar, and he has assured action in this incident that took place on 25th February midnight. Now, seeing our report, the DGP of Bihar has taken cognizance and has set up a 3-member SIT under the leadership of ADG. And now we are hoping that justice will be served. Whoever is the culprit, if so, he will be punished and sent, or disciplinary action will be taken as it is mentioned in the communique that has been shared to the media by the Bihar police. So now it's a matter of time, although we saw a ruckus in the assembly today, in Bihar assembly, where...
All right, Saurav, thank you so much for your time. The question then is, what is justice for this family? All that they were wanting was a memorial set up for their son. That's all from me. I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching.
हर समस्या के दो समाधान होते हैं, भाग लो या भाग लो। उसका सामना करो, उस प्रकार की कार्य योजना बनाओ और उसके समाधान के स्तर पर पहुंचाओ, जैसे कि 6 वर्ष के अंदर किया गया।
पूरी तरह से कानून व्यवस्था ध्वस्त है, पूरी तरह से मुलजिम पकड़ नहीं पा रहे, निर्दोष लोग सताए जाएंगे, असली मुलजिम पकड़ नहीं पाए।
Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, what should be done with those who run roughshod over your lives? Those who believe that the rule of the gun, and when they walk around, it is their Raj, Mafia Raj. Is it all right for bulldozers to be run on properties that they have acquired